In 1954, the American President Eisenhower didn't want communism to spread throughout the world. The U.S. sent troops to France. That is when the Vietnam War started. Our troops were sent to North Vietnam and South Vietnam to fight to get rid of the U.S. invaders and spread communism. The communist side was the Soviet Union, China, North Korea, and North Vietnam. The United States was on the anti-communist side, along with Australia, New Zealand, the Philippines, Thailand, South Korea, and South Vietnam.
What made you go to Vietnam?
Well, I went to Vietnam because actually I was drafted in 1966, and I was working for the U.S. Forest Service before that. I was 19 years old, and I was laid off from the Forest Service for the winter time, and it was maybe 3 weeks or so until I got my draft notice, and had to report to Fort Ord, California, for basic training and advanced infantry training. And after that I went to Fort Benning, Georgia, and did some more infantry training, and then went to Camp Shelby, Mississippi for more jungle training and air mobile training. And that's why I went to Presbyterian. I was drafted.
Was it hard for you to leave Vietnam? Why?
Leave for Vietnam?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was hard to leave for Vietnam. I had to go over on a troop ship from left out of San Francisco, went under the Golden Gate Bridge. There was like 2 ships, and there was 3,000 men on the ships. And we went over there by, took about about 2 weeks to get over there by ship. And it was a very miserable trip because everybody was seasick and everybody had to train while they were going over there, and it wasn't a pleasure cruise.
How were you treated?
In Vietnam, sometimes we were treated well by the local people, and sometimes we weren't. But they were very poor people, and they were always wanting money or you to give them money and stuff. And if you didn't, you probably were going to be called number 10. Number 10 was the worst thing that they had. You know, it was like being an awful person. You know, so it depends on what you were doing. You might be in a village and going to have to, you know, tear up their home, and of course you wouldn't be liked by them then. So it all depended on where you're at.
Were you injured at all?
Yes, after being there for a couple of months, and we established our base camp and had everything set up, we went on ambush patrols, and when we were on one of those type of assignments, and we were chasing the Viet Cong, and were taking a break, and I sat down and beside this trail with several other guys, and all of a sudden shooting broke out, and I started to get up and run, and I couldn't because I had been shot in both legs, and therefore they had to medevac me to hospital, and it took quite a while because they shot down the first helicopter to come get me, so they had to call another one, and it was quite an ordeal.
What were some challenges fighting in the jungle?
Well, actually there was a lot of challenges fighting in the jungle, but some of them were your visibility was really poor, and you couldn't. We'd get lost often trying to go to where we were trying to get to, and couldn't see the sunlight. It was so thick in there, and you couldn't use the compass very much to be very accurate because you couldn't see far enough to take a shot with a compass, you know, to be accurate. So that was one of when you had to call a helicopter to, kind of hear where he was at and kind of get an estimate of where you were at and where you wanted to be picked up. And then there was a lot of noise in the jungle. You hear all kinds of things. It was like monkeys were in the jungle, and they would make noise and throw things, and you had to determine, was that a monkey or was that a Viet Cong or what is that, And when you lay down to sleep at night, it was so wet and damp that leeches would crawl on you and suck the blood out of you. So you had to get them off of you. That's a few of the challenges.
How did you get the Purple Heart reward?
Well, at the time, I got actually rewarded the Purple Heart. I was in the hospital recuperating from the wounds I had in both legs, and they came by and awarded me the Purple Heart while I was there recuperating, so that's how I got it.
Do you regret going into the Vietnam War?
Actually, I don't. I was young and had a lot of ideas that, I was helping people. So I was willing to go and do that. So I have no regrets.
Did you overcome any difficulties in your life from going into the Vietnam War?
Yes, I have. For one difficulty I had when I got out of the military was how I was going to finish up, go to school and get college behind me. And it opened up the GI Bill for me, which helped me have money to go to school and take electronics engineering. And I also, anytime the job seems difficult or hard, if you just think back and say, hey, this is really easy compared to what I went through. So it helps me through a lot of different problems like that.
This is Roger's Purple Heart and the bullet he was actually shot with. This is the battalion that Roger Henson was in.